All right, welcome everybody to a Friday episode of the Call Sheet Daily podcast here at the Fans First Sports Network. It is Friday, which means we're at the Hot Route episode with Pez from Pez's Picks and me talking about football and life. And for those of you just on the audio side, you can't see Pez right now, but he is up in the mountains. Made his escape up to Vermont. How's the mountain air up there, Pez?
Coach, there's a saying in the mountains, in the ski world, the mountaineering world, it's not the altitude, it's the attitude. And in the mountains, pain is something that we welcome. We enjoy it. It's a grind. There's nothing easy up here, whether you're climbing, hiking, skiing down it on planks of wood. And that's leading us into our first topic. I mean, how do you react from pain? How do you react from not getting what you want in life? Right. And this is something that I know both of us have judged. We judge people for this, Coach, right? We judge people. I mean, it's okay to say that.
Kind of have to. It's kind of what we do, right? Yeah. So Pez is referring specifically to the epic U.S. Open from last weekend where the eventual champion, J.J. Spaun, got punched in the face. So to really start with the quote that I think is one I've repeated many, many times throughout my coaching career, Mike Tyson, an epic Mike Tyson quote: "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face," which is, Tyson liked to talk about that because of the fact that he knocked so many people out early on who thought they knew how to fight him. And then he punched him in the face and the eyes widened and everything changed. Well, that happened to J.J. Spaun. All right. So tell us, Pez, how did J.J.'s final round of the Masters begin?
Coach, I've never in my life seen someone play so horribly and get so unlucky and go on to win any golf tournament. He is the first golfer to shoot a 40 or higher on the front nine of a Sunday major and end up winning the major. I watched every hole this guy played. He hit one of the best shots could have been one of the best shots we saw the whole tournament. He knocked down a wedge. For golf nerds out there, that means you kind of take a half swing. You kind of hit a line drive. Bounce, spin, it stops. It's the most impressive golf shot in golf. This guy had first two bounces, about to stop. He hits the pin. It shoots 50 yards off the green. He had the look on his face of someone that just ran his dog over or something, right? So this guy was done. Bogey, double bogey, it was over. And unlike what we saw some of the other golfers on Sunday at Oakmont, they melted in the adversity. They got punched in the face. They didn't get back up. J.J. Spaun, a little bit chubby, not the traditional looking golfer, not the traditional looking golf story. This guy got knocked to the floor. He was knocked out, gets up, and he kicks ass to come back on the back nine. I believe he shot at 34. An amazing comeback, one of the most amazing U.S. Open golf comebacks and stories we've ever seen.
It really was. I mean, he starts with 5 straight bogeys. I can relate. Everybody out here can relate to that. That's everyman golf right there. And so it leads us to a really interesting question, because you're right. He eventually sort of steadies the ship, and then he begins to build some momentum as everybody else, as the field starts to come back to him. Everybody else begins to melt down. And then, of course, he finishes the tournament with an absolutely legendary walk-off 64-foot putt to birdie 18 over all sorts of undulations and breaks on the green, etc. It's really a remarkable response to adversity. So the question we wanted to talk about a little bit here is, who have been some of the best athletes across the spectrum of sports at responding to adversity? Those athletes who would get punched in the face and yet find their way back onto their feet and ultimately to victory. Who's on your short list, Pez?
I mean, I think we have to throw Michael Jordan in there. This guy faced adversity from the personal. I mean, starting his career, he broke his leg. He got thrown down in the key, I believe, by Lambeer, Mahorn, and Rodman. All three of them slammed the guy, hits in the weight room, turns his game around, develops a mid-range shot. Dad dies under suspicious circumstances. Turns out he has a little bit of a gambling issue, which we don't judge at Pez's Picks, Coach. We don't judge that. But the NBA did. He had to step away from the game, tries being a baseball player, comes back, and probably has the best years of his career. You look at any major boxer, Muhammad Ali, even a George Foreman, guys who were knocked down and were able to get back up. Mike Tyson, still the scariest boxer I've ever seen. was not able to do that. Mario Lemieux survives cancer, comes back. Controversial. Maybe I'm wrong about this, Coach, but I don't know about you, but I believe every major cyclist in the Tour de France was doing steroids and blood doping. Lance Armstrong, one of them. He survives cancer, comes back, and it performs greater than any cyclist ever has. Was he getting help? Of course, but I think everybody was. So I look at this type of story, this type of comeback, as being the value of an athlete. Anybody can perform great when things are going right. Anybody can perform great when they're hearing yes and they're being told they're the greatest. But when you face adversity, overcome that and achieve the greatest level of whatever your sport is. I mean, that the true sign of a true athlete and warrior, in my opinion.
Yeah. We talk all the time in our football program about when summer practices begin, which they are right now, early on, right out of the gate, we want to hit our guys with some adversity. We want to make them fail because they need to learn, A, what it's like to fail, and then B, how do you respond? And that is not something that has been sort of universal across the sporting spectrum. You mentioned some great athletes who excelled in that regard. Ali would literally allow himself to get punched in an attempt to wear his opponent down. And then once he sensed that his strategy was beginning to take effect, he would just take over the fight. I think Tom Brady is obviously somebody who you just felt like was never out of a football game. Like I never felt like the Patriots were dead. Even you remember that, obviously you're an Eagles fan. You remember that 41-33 Super Bowl, even with 10 seconds left and the Patriots 70 yards away, you still felt like, oh my God, Brady's going to launch some 70-yard bomb to Randy Moss and they're going to pull this thing out somehow. He was never dead. I'll give you one more. The 2004 Boston Red Sox, the first team in baseball history to come back from a 3-0 deficit, trailing the Yankees in the American League Championship Series, their arch nemesis. Red Sox hadn't won a World Series since 1918. They literally said to themselves, like, let's just take our shot down 3-0. And by literally, I mean, they were doing shots to Jack Daniels in the clubhouse before the game. They said, what the hell? We're down 3-0. Let's loosen up. Everybody have a shot of JD and we'll go out and we'll play. They won that game 4. Everybody did a shot before game 5, and they just kept it going like that. I mean, there's lots of strategies for how to overcome that adversity, whether you're going to be loose, whether you're going to be focused, whatever it might be. But it takes a special athlete, no doubt. But what's on the flip side of that, Pez? There's a flip side of that, those who have not been able to respond. Who do you got in that category?
Well, Coach, I believe you and Jeff Hartman of Fairways and Dreams and Steelers podcast on FFSN, one of our best contributors. I believe you two are conspiring against Pez's picks. Numerous times, you and him have brought up the Boston Red Sox comeback down 0-3, literally the darkest weeks of gambling in the Pez's picks life, Coach. Hit every one of the first 3 games. Had money on the series. It was over. Each game, there's no way Boston's going to win another one. And I believe your terminology was correct. Shots they were taking of horse HGH or Manny and Poppy went in and shot up Ivan Drago level steroids, Coach. FFSN, I've asked them numerous times to go back and challenge this and get my money back from those South Philly bookies, Coach. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's neither here nor there. But at that point, at any point, when you face the biggest adversity, and at that point it was gambling, being down thousands of dollars, you either get up or you disappear. I think of Philadelphia athletes. I know you've heard me rant about these guys. Carson Wentz, Ben Simmons of the Philadelphia 76ers, guys who were drafted, who had their ass kissed their entire life, played a level of sport against unequal opponents. I mean, Carson and Ben both dominated from youth up until the pros. Neither one of them performed at the highest level against the highest level athletes. And when they had that attempt, they failed, gone, disappeared. And could both of them? Did they have the athletic ability and the ability to be better? I think they did. But I think what we're talking about here is something you develop as a young person. You need adversity. You need to go up and be challenged. You need to be humbled. If you're not humbled until the age of 22 to 23, forget about it, right? Life is over at that point. You're going to have trouble with adversity. And, I think the true sign of an athlete, Michael Vick comes to mind. I'm not justifying his, what he went to jail for. But the guy comes out of jail. He did his time. And then he went on to be one of the top NFL quarterbacks, a couple games away from a Super Bowl. The kind of respect I think an athlete deserves, more than even coming in the best player that just dominates and doesn't have to kind of work through things.
I think a lot of what you're talking about speaks to the mental toughness of an athlete. How mentally tough are you? Because the weak ones will fold. The weak ones will allow the negative voices to creep in, or they'll start to blame others. I mean, that's kind of what you heard about Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. Why did it go bad with Carson Wentz in Philly? Because after he got injured and Nick Foles took him on a Super Bowl run, suddenly Carson Wentz began to throw teammates under the bus and blame other people for reasons why things were not going as well once he resumed as the starting quarterback. That's the kind of behavior or the attitudes that suggest to me that you're just not very tough mentally. Whereas guys like Jordan, who you brought up earlier, I don't know if there has been a tougher, mentally tougher athlete in the history of the game. There's a great clip of Jordan talking to, of Kobe Bryant. There's another one, man. The mental toughness of Kobe Bryant was unbelievable. But there's a great clip of Kobe Bryant addressing his teammates at practice, where he says to them all, like, I'm not putting up with any bullshit. Like, I don't have any room for your immaturity. And if your focus is anything less than what my focus is, you're out of here. It was amazing how he demanded that they play in practice exactly how they were going to play in the game. And you might say, well, that's a little bit extreme, but if you want to be the ultimate, find the ultimate success at the highest level, you have to be like that.
Coach, Tiger Woods, another example. I think what we're talking about, and both of us grew up in this era, in the 80s, every movie, every story was about somebody getting their ass kicked and fighting back and coming back. Rambo, Rocky, your favorite, The Karate Kid. I remember
My Bodyguard. Remember My Bodyguard?
My
Pez?
Bodyguard. Matt Dillon's first movie. I remember my brother is 4 years older than me. He and his friends kind of raised me, and they beat me up a lot. In my neighborhood, and you've met some of my associates I've grown up with outside of Philly, a lot of fighting, Coach. And people that can't see, I'm built to be a lover, not a fighter, but I got my ass kicked. I was never judged by not being able to beat everybody up. You were judged in my neighborhood, my community I grew up with, whether you fought back or not. Nobody expected you to be a ninja, to go on some sort of John Wick killing spree. You had to fight back. If you didn't, you were ostracized, and you knew it. Whether it be sports, gambling, whether it be fifth grade coach, Lindell Perry bullied me about my glasses. He told me I wore my mommy's glasses, and that hurt me. And my brother said, you're going to have to punch him in the nose. I said, well, I've never hit anybody. He goes, he's going to hit you one day. Wouldn't you know, the next day, whips me with his zipper, cuts my cheek, and slaps me, Coach, which shocked me. I'd never been slapped. I didn't know how sissy that was, but I punched that kid in the nose, blew his nose up. Now, full disclosure, did I cry? A little bit. I was scared. Never again did I get bullied, Coach. Never again. Do I want to get punched? No. Do I want to fail? No, but I'm not afraid of it. I'm afraid to not fight back. And I think any athlete story we're talking about, any person's, adversity is not a horrible thing. It's something that you can fight through, whether it be health, personal, sports, gambling, whatever it may be. And I think the mark of a true champion and warrior, no one's perfect. No one's going to win them all. Jordan always talked about it. I believe there was a Nike commercial where he cited there were like 54 times that he took the game-winning shot and missed. This is the kind of thing that drives people. And I think this is what we need to get back to, right? There is a reality in life. You're not always going to get what you want. Mick Jagger said this the best, but if you try sometime, you might just find you get what you need, Coach. So I think I'm throwing it at you right now. I think I'm
perfect.
I don't know how to follow that one up, Coach.
That's a perfect quote to end that segment of the show with, right? So yeah, let's move on though, because you brought up some movies, some great movies from the 1980s, and even I'll throw one out at you from the 70s. I mean, is there a better movie about fighting back than The Bad News Bears? I mean, that is a great movie about fighting. Tanner sticking up for his teammate who's getting bullied, and then the two other kids stuffed Tanner into the trash can. It didn't matter that he got stuffed in the trash can. It mattered that he fought back. But 1970s movies. It is June 20th. And tonight on NBC, 8 p.m. on NBC, they will be airing in its entirety the movie Jaws to commemorate the fact that on this date 50 years ago, 50 years ago, June 20th, 1975, Jaws was released to the American public and would go on to be really part of now just sort of our cultural lexicon. I mean, this movie is as important to American culture as just about any movie ever made for lots of reasons. We're going to get into some of them right now. But for you, why is Jaws so great? Why is it such a great movie?
Well, both of us, Coach, growing up along the ocean. I mean, this is a Bible to ocean life. If you're into surfing or fishing, I've done a little bit of both. Being in the ocean, this is the Bible, right? I mean, this is the guidebook to life. We're giving a little sneak peek in the coming weeks. We're going to do an episode on man versus nature sports versus man, and I think Jaws encompasses this kind of fight, man versus nature, man versus himself. The first movie to ever gross over $100 million at the box office, and it showed that at times man, no matter what it does, is going to fail. Nature can kill you, and it's something that maybe wasn't celebrated enough until that point. And I have this movie mentally memorized. I could probably do every line. It never gets old, Coach. It's the same as what we talked about with Rocky and Rambo and these movies of not everybody's going to live in these movies, right? Not you're going to have failure. You're going to have this. You're going to have to fight through whatever it may be to survive in this point. And one of the greatest American pieces of art ever created, Spielberg, a masterpiece. And I celebrate the first three, Coach. 4, I'll give you a break. Maybe not that great. Number 3, the first 3D movie I ever saw in the theater. I thought that shark was in my lap. An amazing technological advancement in that movie.
Genius move by the film production company to drop it just as summer was kicking off, just to terrify people. Spielberg, 27 years old when he made this film. He went way over budget. They had all sorts of production issues. The mechanical shark, which they nicknamed Bruce, it broke down several times. There were threats from the studio that they were going to cancel the film. Spielberg at one point thought he'll never work again in Hollywood, that this would be his undoing. And instead it winds up being the launching pad for, arguably the greatest directorial career in all of Hollywood. I mean, the suspense on one hand makes this movie amazing. The cinematography, the underwater shots of the legs kicking from just below the surface, coupled with that score, that Jaws theme music by John Williams. I think Jaws is also probably the first movie that gives us the great horror movie score. And then all the subsequent horror movies, which kind of got ridiculous, the Friday the 13th and the Halloweens and those types of things. They always had sort of like a little musical cue that, the murder was about to happen. And it was terrifying, man. It got you on the edge of your seat. And the writing of Jaws is amazing. The scenes, my favorite scenes in the whole movie, I'm going to ask you about your favorite scenes in a second, but my favorite scenes in the movie are on the boat, because I think the juxtaposition of Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss, and Chief Brody and Captain Quint by the great Robert Shaw. I mean, those three characters together had such amazing chemistry and made you so uncomfortable, especially Quint, for his disdain for the young scientist. And the tension of the movie was so epic that it just, I don't know if you could really replicate it.
I think of that movie, and I think of what it taught us to be a man in America, and the story of USS Indianapolis, where Quint explains the boat that delivered the nuclear bombs, or the atomic bombs dropped on Japan, was torpedoed, was so top secret, nobody even knew it was out there. For 5 days, 1,200 men went into the ocean in the Pacific. When they were finally spotted, I believe 200 or 300 came out, men getting cut in half. A true story, and one that, growing up and having a father in the military, and I believe yours was too, they wouldn't talk about this, but this is what they were suggesting, that to be a man was to be selfless, to be willing to give everything, even your life for your country or your team or your sport, whatever it may be. And I remember thinking about that a lot in my life. Even though Hooper was this trust fund private school kid, he showed he had balls at the end, right? And I believe Quint began to respect him. The chief, a guy who was afraid of the ocean but goes out there, and they fight kind of themselves and their fear. A movie I'll compare it to Platoon, when you have the battle of Charlie Sheen's soul between the two guys, Elias and Tom Berenger. And I think at the end of the day, this is why our generation loves this. This is a sign of manhood where you don't have to be the Super Bowl champion. You go out, coach, next week, let's book a charter. Let's go out and kill a 20-foot great white with our bare hands. I'm ready. I'm feeling it today, right? I'm getting pumped up here. I got a
I'm
mountain.
booked. I'm actually booked next weekend, so you might have to get somebody else. But
Fine.
one of these days. Well, all right. Let's talk about Quint real quick because you make some great points about manhood. Quint's death, being eaten by the shark, may be the most fitting movie death and the most sensational movie death of all time. I mean, the only other one where I can think about a guy like going down in, I mean, a blaze of glory, and is James Caan in The Godfather at the toll booth, man, when they just mow him down at the toll booth like that. But Quint, because of who he was, the fisherman, the loner, the Captain Ahab, so to speak, hunting the shark, to get eaten like that is just such an amazing and fantastic ending for him. Can you think of any others in movies that were maybe similar?
Well, Brad Pitt, Legends of the Fall. He battles a grizzly, which eats him, I believe, while he's wearing a bear coat, which is very ironic. So I'll suggest that. Young Guns, we have Emilio Estevez playing Billy the Kid, goes down, I believe, in a battle, but survives, but in the end dies. You think of any you think of any type of movie or story where to get your death at the end where you're doing what you love. I'm not saying this is good though, coach. I think living is good. Quinn, he probably could have lived. I can envision that scene. He's kicking those feet, kick the guy in the nose, grab somebody's hand. I think he gave up, coach. At the end of the day, I think Quinn could have fought that shark off a little bit more like Brody, and that scene disturbs me as he's getting eaten in half. I mean,
No, how can it not? How can it not disturb me? Maybe he's like Lieutenant Dan in Gump. He just embraced what he believed to be his fate. Lieutenant Dan believed that he was supposed to die in the jungle in Vietnam and was actually pissed that Forrest saved him. So maybe Quint just said, at some point, this is how I'm supposed to go down.
Well, as you remember, Lieutenant Dan hangs on the mast of the USS Gump, whatever they called it, and he's yelling at the Lord above, "Is this all you've got? You call this a storm?" And then they show him baptized again, coach. This is what we're talking about. The guy got through it. He gets his magic legs. He buys the Apple company, I assume, and at the end of the day, this is what we're talking about. Life should not be perfect. Nobody has a perfect life. You have to rise above this. Quint, I don't know. Am I calling him a quitter? Maybe I am, coach. Maybe you're making me see this in a different light. That guy, he should have kicked that thing in the nose, grabbed the gills. 25-foot great white. I'm fighting to the end. I don't know. I don't know what the heck the situation was with that. Maybe Brody let him go. I don't know. I'm going to rewatch that tonight. I'm going to get back to you next week on this.
Well, I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm going to watch it tonight. 8:00 on NBC. They're going to run the whole thing. And then I think Peacock's running the whole, at least the first three, the trilogy, the Jaws 2 and 3. You're right. Jaws 4, we should just pretend like Caddyshack 2. Let's pretend it never happened because it's so epically bad that we need to strike it from our culture.
Well, there are some quality scenes in Caddyshack 2, coach. I mean, I'm just going to, I'll stop you right there. I'll agree to disagree. Caddyshack 2, far from one, but still has some quality scenes.
All right. I'm guaranteeing that you and I are the only people listening to this right now who've ever even seen Caddyshack 2. Pez, fun conversation as always. What do you got going on with the NBA playoffs, man? It's game 6 tonight. Give us a quick preview of your thought process here.
Well, we're 3-1 through 6 games, coach. We're proud of that number. And tonight we are not taking the bait, learning from pain and coming back from horrible losses like when the Red Sox shot up horse tranquilizers to win. We're not going to play this game. Halliburton does not appear to be playing. The line's only 6. You'd think Halliburton would be worth more than 3 points or maybe even compared to if he was starting in the beginning of the series. At times, a team loses their best player and plays better. And the team that's defending, the team that lost their best player, tends to have a little bit of an exhale and lose. I'm not saying that I believe in this enough that I'm going to bet against Oklahoma City, but we're going to stand back, and I hope Indiana wins tonight. I hope we get another game. And I think it's a strong possibility that the house always wins. Everyone's going to load up on OKC. no Halliburton, and I'm willing to give McConnell a run here. I think as a player, he can cause some problems and maybe to get one more win, Indiana.
Yeah. Big night for TJ McConnell. I would say the same, man. I think that you're going to see him do some positive things. So I hope there's a game 7. Nothing more exciting than a game 7 in sports.
Absolutely.
All right, Pez, enjoy that fine air up there in Vermont, and we'll catch you next week on the Hot Route.
All right, later.
Yes, sir. All right, so for Pez from Pez's Picks, this is Coach Kevin Smith. Hope you enjoyed this Friday conversation. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll catch you on Monday.